So long as you're putting your podcast on YouTube, you really are doing everything right already. Like that's the end message, is like, get your show on YouTube.
And that's something that the guide largely points to. They're like, hey, like you're doing it awesome. Like anything is better than nothing.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Headliner Podcast. We're your hosts, Nicholas and Elissa, and we're here to keep you in the loop on all the things that you can do to promote your podcast. So Elissa, what are we talking about today?
So last week, YouTube released what they're calling the definitive guide to creating engaging podcast content. And the guide, it talks about like all the things you can do to actually support your podcast and support growth on YouTube. But it's from YouTube. So we've kind of been saying some of these things for a while, but YouTube is like, hey, this is exactly what you should be doing. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, sounds like a good time to me, especially with all this interest in video podcasting. And I'm going to say the thing. I hope someone somewhere has turned this into a drinking game where they take a shot every time one of us says it. But, YouTube is here to stay. It's the second largest search engine. 100 hours of content gets uploaded to it, every minute or two or something like that. So, yeah, let's do that, Elissa. Let's talk about, podcasting on YouTube and kind of share the bullet points from this guide you were talking about.
Let's.
Okay, so where do you want to start with this? I guess we should start with the fact that YouTube is a video platform. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways for a podcast to exist as a video. What are some of those different types of videos people can make?
Sure. So I'm honestly just going to go in the order that YouTube gave because it's an excellent
because it's
template.
The definitive list. Yeah, we're defining what's definitive. That's fine.
It's slightly in order of importance here. But anyways, so the first thing is just getting started with video. So you just said, podcast is a lot of ways that people can kind of create video from audio or from a podcast. So YouTube kind of broke it up into the good, the better, and the best. So the good, that's going to be very simple video, audiograms. So it's not necessarily there's a human talking, there's some type of image, static or dynamic, that's going to appear on the screen. And that's literally just allowing people to convert their audio into video. And YouTube specifically kind of called out the more dynamic you make that video, the better it's going to be for YouTube. So that's going to be including things like rotating images. So if you have chapter art, that's going to be a great time in which you can kind of automatically do that. There are tools out there. Headliner can help you do that. So Headliner will automatically look at your RSS feed. And if you have show art and chapter art, it'll kind of pull that in there dynamically with wherever your chapter markers are. So that's automatically going to start making things a little bit more dynamic. You can get more involved in your kind of audiogram type creation and adding in B-roll on your own. You can add GIFs. You can add all sorts of things without ever getting in front of the camera and clicking record.
Yeah, and I guess to just explain a little bit of why you might want to do that and go that extra mile for these, right off the bat, I believe the article called them static videos. They didn't even call them audiograms. They're like static videos. Mm-hmm. And that is a thing, obviously you're on a video platform. So the more movement and the more stimulation you can inject into your video, the better it'll probably perform because people will be, invested in not just the audio, but also the imagery. Mm-hmm. So like you said, slideshows, little effects, stuff like that. And that is something that is a genre on YouTube outside of your run-of-the-mill podcasts. People do make glorified slide deck videos on YouTube still. It's a very 2006 YouTube coded thing, but it's still out there and it still gets views in some cases. So that's great. But obviously, YouTube, dynamic video, we live in a high information age on the internet. So if you have the capacity to do more than those static videos, you might be better off going with that. And there are two other types that they named. So not to steal this one from you, but I guess I'm about to. Mine, you can't have it. No, it's mine. The rest of the podcast is just me gatekeeping this. The better option is just straight up video. It's a simple recording, like the one that, you're looking at right now, honestly. It's just two people talking. It's a camera set up. and it elevates your content because there is real movement and there's a connection to be made because you can make eye contact with the person who's speaking to the camera and what have you. And then a level above that, I kind of jumped the gun because I said that was like the video you're watching right now, but there's some fluidity to it. The best thing you can do video wise is your fully produced videos. So this is something with like multiple cameras, B-roll, lots of graphics, stuff like that. Maybe for the video version, I'll actually throw a graphic on screen right now just to make that point. Or not. We'll see how much time I have next week. But, it's something more production focused that kind of resembles a TV show at that point. I like to think of like this being sort of the CNN interview or PBS interview where it's like two people talking and there's like a little camera on a jib or a slider like moving around while they talk and all that stuff. So yeah, those are the types of videos you could be posting on YouTube. And like you said, it kind of goes good, better, best. I think that's the best way to put it because there isn't, so long as you're putting your podcast on YouTube, you really are doing everything right already. Like that's the end message is like, get your show on YouTube.
And that's something that the guide largely points to. They're like, hey, like you're doing it awesome. Like anything is better than nothing. And I do think that we kind of should call out something that you said, and it's going to be the fact that how much time are you going to have next week to add in like the slide or something. So each of those, like the good, the better, and the best, they definitely have a different level of commitment when it comes to time. So we personally, like Nicholas said, we're just honestly sitting in a Zoom call right now. It's nothing fancy, but it is helping us to grow our podcast and grow our company on YouTube, actually, through our podcast playlist. So that's just something to kind of call out. The more involved it gets, the more it might cost, the more time it might take. So just kind of keep those things in mind. But largely just getting your podcast on YouTube with some type of dynamic something, whether it's going to be that waveform and like giant captions or simple recordings or something, totally full scale video production, anything is great.
Precisely. And I just want to call out the fact that the time difference between going from your static video or audiogram all the way up to like a fully produced video, it's exponential, It's not just, it's an extra hour maybe. It really is, as you ramp up your production, what might take 1 hour suddenly takes like 3 hours or 4 hours. So there's nothing wrong with going with your static video, especially to start. It's easy, it's fast. There's a certain tool that can make wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It's super easy and just borderline fully automated. So take advantage of those tools because at the end of the day, it's about getting your show out there. On that note, Elissa, when they do have their show ready and they are ready to upload it to YouTube, they probably need a thumbnail or something, right? So maybe you could talk us through that. What did the guys over at YouTube have to say about that?
Yeah, so YouTube, they made the analogy of thumbnails being a billboard. So it's like something big that jumps out at you. I like to say that thumbnails are oftentimes going to be the first impression of your podcast, your channel, and you. So you want it to be pretty, right? You want it to be attention grabbing that makes somebody kind of just see their feed and be like, oh, what's that video? And click on it. They should be somewhat informative. So it's going to be very easy to discern what the video is about. We know people don't necessarily read all of the time. So the less reading, the better. So having just a few very clear and a refined message is really going to help your thumbnails kind of pop out a little bit and probably increase some clicks. YouTube, of course, they had a couple of recommendations from them on what they're seeing makes the best thumbnail. So in order, they're having expressive human faces that show clear emotion. So you've probably been on YouTube and you've probably seen somebody making like a very animated face. And you're like, that's not necessarily natural. That's not something people that do.
Yeah. I'm just getting flashbanged by the image of Mr. Beast for some reason. I don't know. That could just be me.
Probably a reason. But those types of thumbnails perform well. It kind of very quickly kind of connects like those perceptual nodes and people are like, oh, that's happy or that's mad. What's going on there? So it kind of invokes like some type of curiosity for the viewer. High contrast colors. So you definitely want things to stand out. You have a couple of different elements, like you have a face, you have some text, you have a background. Having clear, distinct contrast kind of defines lines a little bit more. It's like, you could probably speak to this as you are, a design person.
Your basic color theory, black and white, red, and whatever's the opposite of red on a color wheel. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's cyan, right?
I thought it was
some
green.
Type of blue.
Oh, well, that's
green
specific,
or blue
yeah.
or something. Yeah, But it's stuff like that. It's relying on that just in order to kind of, like you said, lead the eye. More than that, you don't even have to just look at it in terms of color. It could be contrast, not in terms of like lumosity, but in terms of the background itself. Maybe you have someone in the foreground and instead of having a super cluttered background behind them, you just have like a clear wall or something that makes it really easy to focus on the person at the center of the shot. Yeah, I mean, to that end, what else is there? Is there something regarding text we can look at?
Yeah, so YouTube, again, they had recommended having very minimal bold text. So making sure that it's very legible. So that's typically like what bold does. Like you'll often see like in design tools, they kind of segment out like text and font categories. So you'll see like the corporate font categories. Those are normally very clean. You can make them really big. Almost anybody can read them. So that's probably going to be like the type of text style that you're going to want to lean towards, And like they said, having as few words as possible with kind of that sweet spot being 3 to 5 words.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes sense. Like on a logical level, you have your title as your descriptive explanation of what your podcast episode is going to be. Your thumbnail at that point, you really just want to get it down to like the bare essentials. For something like this video, it might literally just be the words, grow your podcast or podcasting on YouTube, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or do this to grow your podcast. That's kind of already starting to push it even. But it's very clear. It's a call to action in many cases. You know it when you see it. Log on to YouTube and you'll probably see like a dozen great examples on your home feed right now, right? And then I think one thing that's worth reminding people is make sure to keep your brand consistent. Even if that means forgoing some of the kind of optimal guidelines that we were just talking about, make sure that someone can look at your thumbnail and go, oh, it's a video by this person. Because that's how you get repeat viewership, and that's worth more in the YouTube algorithm, and that's how you grow your show. Besides that, is there anything on like the metadata or kind of like the behind the scenes stuff that people who might be new to YouTube should know to leverage?
Yeah, so YouTube, again, they kind of gave us the ultimate structure for podcasting on YouTube. So one thing that's really important to YouTube is to make sure that your videos are navigatable. I think that's the word, right? Navigatable.
Sure.
That doesn't sound right, but we'll say
they're
it is.
Easy to navigate.
Yes, that's a more elegant way of saying it, at least. So anyways, in making things more navigatable.
Nice.
I butchered it. Oh, well. Add chapters. So especially if anything is over 20 minutes, add chapters. It's going to allow people to be able to kind of chunk up your video, click through it a little bit more. So maybe they're like, oh, I already know that. I can jump to the next chapter. It helps. Again, anything over 20 minutes. So if you're having, a YouTube short, you don't need to put chapters for that. That's only, 15 to 3 minutes or 15 seconds to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Doesn't really need it. Also, chapters, once again, I love talking about my metadata and all the things you can do to make your content more indexable. Chapters are indexable on YouTube, which is nuts. So normally chapters are going to kind of be like these quick little sentences that are super informative. So like for us, we'll be probably say, like whatever minute we're at, like probably 7 or something. We'll say like outlines best structure for podcasts on YouTube. It's a little bit longer, but it's off the top of my head.
It's clear.
But
it's
B, it's very clear. Like
yeah.
you're going to know what it's about. And then also somebody Googling like, hey, how should I structure my podcast for YouTube? That's going to rank. Like that's going to come up. So this video, this podcast will likely come up on the blog that's going to correspond with this. That's going to probably come up in somebody's search queries. Ways you can do that, you can do it manually, or you can do tools like Eddie. Eddie helps. So Eddie is Headliner's transcript-based editor. It comes with every single account. Not only does it help you edit your video and your audio content, but it's also going to write all of the things that you need to then upload that content once it's done. And what's really cool, looks at your transcript, looks at your RSS feed. So it tries to kind of inform be informed by your existing writing style. But it's also going to load everything down with keywords, including those chapters. So it does segment them out for you, formats them all lovely for YouTube. So you can just really copy paste and kind of be on your way.
And I just want to point out, like, this is something that seriously goes a long way, especially if you just, more than just the chapter, like chaptering your videos, writing descriptive descriptions for it. Descriptive descriptions. There you go. There we go with our
What a
amazing
phrasing.
English today. Yeah, I know. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. But like, going that extra mile, because it is what you said, it is all indexed by Google. It does make finding it on Google search like a lot easier. Something that I've noticed lately is when I search something on Google, sometimes it will pull up a video as the search result, and it will actually say the relevant information is from 13 seconds to 26,
Yeah.
So
the Gemini stuff is nuts.
it's
like
crazy.
How it picks
And
that
it's
up.
usually pretty accurate. If I'm Googling how to fix my toaster and it's pulling up the answer as a video, it is skipping to the part where it tells me not to put a fork in a plugged in toaster or something.
Still good information.
Not speaking from experience, I swear. So no, that's seriously important. And, building off of that on the periphery, it isn't just about the main podcast drops, right? There's this thing they talk about in the article called shoulder content, which is your YouTube shorts, which are akin to what people are doing on like TikTok or Instagram Reels. They're clips from your podcast. They're additional segments that maybe got cut, but are perfect for short form, whatever you want to post. That's there. What's great about YouTube Shorts is you can actually link a short to its featured video. So you could just show a clip from your podcast, and then if they're interested, they can click one button and go straight to the episode. There's community posts because YouTube exists as a social media platform also. So you can actually interact with your own followers. You can run polls. You can talk to them. You can give updates on your show, all that cool stuff. And that's a great way to just appear in their subscription feed again, even when you don't have new episodes. There's also a feature called Clips, which allows people to actually go into your episode and extract parts from it to repost as a highlight. And that's great. I mean, who wouldn't want that? I think it's kind of similar to, I think Twitch or some of the live streaming services do something like that too.
Yeah, a lot of platforms do it. I know like TikTok allows like stitching. So each one kind of has their own variation of it, but it's, it's literally just helping you to create user generated content without asking people to create user generated content.
Yeah, exactly. And to that end, just making sure you're taking advantage of all of those tools. And more than that, that you're optimizing your use of them, which maybe you might be able to speak to a little. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can take those, not only, like you said, does it link to your actual show, but you can, distill them out onto other platforms. So you can, a lot of, not Instagram, almost Instagram is about to allow it for like direct linking out to things.
Right.
It's coming. I'm excited.
I really hope they go back through like the literal millions of posts over the years and allow the links in them to just work.
Oh,
that'd be
that
nice.
would be beautiful. I don't think that'll happen, but I would love for that to happen.
I don't know.
It could. I mean,
could, yeah.
I don't know.
We're not engineers.
Yeah, it's something with code.
Yeah.
It's possible. But yeah, so you can link stuff out. You can literally, if you have that clip, you can, like download it and just post it to other social channels as well. So outside of YouTube, social media in and of itself is a really powerful tool for growth. So it's going to allow you to kind of have an additional content stream outside of YouTube that's going to reach different types of listeners in different ways.
Yeah, precisely. And it really is just doing that. It's making sure you're covering your bases. All the stuff I was talking about with the community tab. It's basically taking advantage of SEO in order to get people to check out your podcast. And then using stuff like your comment section, replying to comments, and leveraging your community tab, and even doing stuff like the YouTube Premiere button, which I've had limited success with in the past, where you're actually able to tell your subscribers when your video is coming out, which, by the way, awesome community post idea. I've done it without fail, and it actually does help. If you know your podcast comes out at 2 p.m. on Sundays, let's say, do a community post on Thursday or Friday saying, hey, I have a new episode coming out at 2 p.m. on blah, 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 But also using the Premiere feature on YouTube, which allows you to put your video in your subscribers' subscription box a day or two early because it premieres at a certain time and they want them to know. And when the video premieres on YouTube, everyone will be able to watch it together in real time with a live chat feature, which is a great way to kind of network and get your audience to feel like they can connect with you on a level. And that's a huge part of what makes podcasting special, that YouTube just is really easy to leverage. Like, it's really easy to leverage on YouTube. Besides that, I think it's also just worth reminding everyone that, you know, it's that old saying, Rome wasn't made in a day. This stuff takes time. Building an audience takes time. There's a lot of trial and error and a lot of needing to play like Monday morning quarterback and just like watch the tape back and see what worked and what didn't. And that's another thing that YouTube's really great at. They give you arguably too much data as far as like viewer retention and what devices people are listening from, etc. There's a lot of analytics to crawl through that you can actually use to get really in the weeds about what's working and isn't working about your show.
And we talked about it 2 podcasts ago, maybe 1 podcast ago.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. YouTube released a bunch of updates. So they're allowing for title testing. They're allowing for expanded thumbnail testing. So that's stuff that's also going to pop up in your analytics. So you can kind of, especially over time, hone in on what specifically is working well in regards of like thumbnail design, and then also
Precisely.
like titling. So you can kind of figure out like, okay, there's certain words that people seem to really resonate, that kind of stuff. So it's iterative and it can be a lot of work, but if you're really looking to leverage YouTube, definitely just try out those features. They're super easy. We're doing it right now. I will say, we had never really done like the thumbnail testing, but it was like, you know, we talked about it. Why not? Our most recent upload did have a thumbnail test and it actually got like 80% more views than it normally does. That could have been because it's an interesting topic. That could have been because of their promotional cycle. We're going to keep testing this to see if there's any type of correlation. But I would assume that YouTube is saying like, hey, there's a test. We need to test that test.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going to be almost like an algorithm bump. And again, I have nothing to really back that up. I know that YouTube says to do it, so I'm going to try it. And so far it's working for us.
Makes sense. And yeah, to that end, like there's a lot of metrics that are on the more kind of not traditional, but kind of like that have been around for a while that you can use. For example, YouTube allows you to figure out when people tend to click off of your video. And that can give you really valuable information, because if people click out in the first minute, it means that something that you do in the first minute of all your videos isn't working. And maybe it's time to cut down your intro and put in a really quick one or something other, you know? There's a million different things that you can do to optimize your show. And so long as you're willing to crawl through the data and play detective a little bit and try new things and figure out what sticks, you know, it could really boost your show. And it is a lot of work, but I like to think of it as like the fun work.
I mean, you're already putting in all this work for your podcast, you know, you might want to put in that extra hour or two to like support it.
No, exactly. You're already there. You're producing high quality content. Why not try and produce higher quality content? That's I don't know. That's my perspective on it. At any rate, that's the lowdown on YouTube. According to YouTube, well, that's the lowdown on YouTube, according to us, based on information from YouTube that they got from their expertise and other resources that may or may not have been us at some point. Who knows? I'm not saying that, like, actually, but I'm going to shut up now. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. And we'll be back with more podcasting tips in the future.